So a question I get all the time is, what is the Village Church Institute? How is this different from a Sunday school model or a small group model in ministry? Now, while we're for home groups and we're for gospel-centered community at the Village Church, and while we're for Christian education, the Village Church Institute is really answering a different question. It's how do we intentionally engage disciples in transformational learning environments? And so I want to encourage you that if you're a pastor, a minister, a missionary, or involved in some kind of an organization, I believe that Christian education, being in the posture of a learner, is an absolutely foundational element to life with Jesus Christ. And so what the Village Church Institute does is it creates learning environments for people to equip them in their walk with Christ. And so I want to just consider two things with you really quick. Two questions that I think you should be asking and ultimately answering for yourself in your ministry context. And the first is the question of sequence. If you are interested in intentionally equipping disciples, you need to ask yourself the question, how are we somehow moving them along a path of learning? So for example, how do you move somebody who's a brand new believer into a place of greater and greater and greater maturity? And for us, that's the question of sequence. We have various learning environments that are set up to sequence people through a kind of education that makes them and helps them grow in their maturity with Christ. We have things like forums, which are just one-time events to equip people. Then we have things like Bible studies or classes that are 11-week studies that just equip people in basically how to read the scripture. We have a 1-year intense discipleship program that equips people how to read the Bible and how to do theology and how to do spiritual formation. And then we have a residency. And ultimately our hope would be is somebody would come to a forum, then to a class, then to the training program, and then to the residency. And at the end, they will have seen how they've grown in maturity in their relationship with Christ intentionally. So if you're thinking about creating a Christian education environment in your church, you have to answer this question of sequence. How do you grow people into greater maturity? But that's not the only question that you have to ask and answer for yourself. Another question you have to ask is scope. What are we teaching? Why should we be teaching specific things? One topic that I have to address all the time as I speak with churches that are trying to set up these environments is, how do you know what is absolutely essential for disciples? So let me just tell you what we decided here at the Village Church. Our scope is Christian story, Christian belief, and Christian formation. Basically what we mean is we think it's absolutely essential for every single Christian, regardless of where they are in their journey, to be learning the Bible, theology, and spiritual formation. That's what we mean by story, belief, and formation. It's almost like you have 3 braids that you're always doing all 3 of these braids, creating kind of this beautiful knotted braid of discipleship. Anytime you leave out the Bible, anytime you leave out theology, or anytime you leave out spiritual formation, you're no longer talking about holistic discipleship. So in all of our environments, we're teaching the Bible, we're teaching theology, and we're teaching spiritual formation. And our hope, if you take away anything from this video, I want you to hear this. Our hope is that we simply wouldn't have educational environments where people are downloading information. We're most interested in life change and transformation. So these learning environments, as we've emphasized these 3 topics of the Bible, theology, and spiritual formation, what's happened for us is we've been privileged to see life change. We've been privileged to see people grow in their relationship with Christ, moving people from being new believers all the way to being pastors or executive level leaders. So what is the Village Church Institute? It's an intentional process of growing people from new believer all the way to pastor in Christian story, Christian belief, and Christian formation.